Welcome to the Ultimate Plan B. Kyle versus KJ is back for another week. It's week 11. We all sucked week 10. I did. I don't know about you, but it's going to be a rough week. So let's get into it. Without further ado, let's introduce our analysts that are going to help you through the week. Get used to the playoffs. Playoffs. First up, Kyle. Say what's up to the people.
What's up, guys? It's Kyle. Just wanted to say that if you guys started Andy Dalton last week, you're welcome.
All right, that's a man of confidence. You can see it bleeding through the screen. KJ, what's up?
What's going on, guys? KJ here, celebrating a big Eagle win over the Cam Newton-led Panthers. Loving it. Hoping I can give you guys some good advice for Week 11, like I did for Week 10.
I don't know if they were really led, per se, but I'll take it. And as always, our man in the field, bearing the weather for you guys. Chris, what's up?
Hey guys, Chris here. Just want to let you all know I got into college. I'm going to Blue Mountain State.
All right, good job, Chris. Full scholarship, full ride. All right, that's our guy. All right, without further ado, it's week 11, so you know what's coming up first. First segment, Plan B's. Starts versus our sits. We're going to discuss who you should be starting and who you should be sitting. Got a different format, so we're going to go ahead and show you KJ's and Kyle's starts and sits for the week. Take a look at that list. It's an interesting list, I'd say. I like Edelman being a good start. Okay. So, without further ado, KJ. Got a nice list there. So, name two players in your list that you think are the key starts or sits for Week 11.
So one of my starts this week is a quarterback for you guys. For those of you who have just lost Carson Palmer to a gruesome ACL injury, I'm saying start RG3 this week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They are the 6th worst team in giving up points to quarterbacks. I think RG3 had a decent game against Minnesota last week. So with the weapons that he has at his disposal, Deshaun and Pierre Garçon, I think he's not going to be afraid to go deep on Tampa Bay. So start RG3 this week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
All right, and who's your second player you're going to talk about today?
So I am going to be sitting the Philly DST this week. I know I've been kind of wishy-washy, to say the least, about whether or not to start them week to week. The special teams has been doing a great job of really increasing their value in fantasy football. Darren Sproles has been playing like a madman. Thank you, New Orleans Saints, for that. But I am benching the Philly DST this week because they're playing the bad man himself, Aaron Rodgers. And like I would say about Kerry Williams, he's going to give up a lot of deep plays. Jordy Nelson's probably going to be on him, and he's probably in for a huge day. Sit the Philly DST this week in a really tough matchup against the Green Bay Packers. They're going to run up the scoreboard.
Oh, yeah. Kyle can attest to that one. Am I right? 48 points against Kyle? I'll take it. All right, so Kyle, looking at your list again, you do have some interesting starts, some sits. So, who are your top two players to start or sit for Week 11, sir?
I'm going to start with the start side. If you look at my list, I have Frank Gore there. I actually love him this week. He's at the Giants this week. He finally got into the end zone last week after the Giants team just got destroyed last week on the ground, gave up 4 rushing touchdowns to Marshawn Lynch. They've given up 10 rushing touchdowns just to running backs this year, so I think that Frank Gore has a great chance of getting in the end zone. And then on my sit side, I have Larry Fitzgerald. I just think that, well, one, he's going to be in Detroit. The Lions are number 1 in fantasy football against opposing wide receivers. Plus, Drew Stanton is now in the game for the Cardinals. And when Drew Stanton was in the game, Larry Fitzgerald had 0 reception touchdowns. So I would stay away from Larry Fitzgerald this week.
I hear you on that one. Drew Stanton is definitely going to keep it safe, play the short-range game. Because he's, backing up a good player like that, having a record like that as well. So, on to the next question. So, KJ, how confident are you in sitting Jay Cutler this week against Against the Vikings? You're going to sit him?
I am absolutely sitting Jay Cutler this week, just like I said to sit him last week, and he stunk it up. Got some late garbage time touchdowns against the Packers in a blowout. I'm sitting him again this week against Minnesota Vikings because, surprisingly, they are third best against quarterbacks. Again, it's a division game, so they see him twice a year. They got to prepare for him. So I'm sitting Jay Cutler again this week.
All right, I'll take it. I guess you can see that. They are kind of crumbling, but you never know what you can get. It's
Brandon Marshall's hurt, too.
That's true. It's a lot that's going to happen over there. So, also on your list, I noticed, I kind of stood out. You're sitting Andre Ellington. Why so?
Sitting Andre Ellington because he had a pretty rough day last week against St. Louis. His yard per carry efficiency was terrible, and he's going against one of the top run defenses, one of the top defenses in the league in general, in the Detroit Lions. So I don't have any faith in Ellington. There's got to be somebody who's a better option for you to stream this week. Don't like Ellington at all, especially with a backup quarterback possibly throwing him the ball for those screen passes.
Oh, it's going to be an interesting game, all right. Got a new quarterback going up against a top defense. It could get ugly. It could get real ugly. So looking at Kyle's list again. You're starting Josh McCown. Reaching out for Josh McCown. So, Kyle, what do you think about Josh McCown actually starting?
I like Josh McCown just because of looking at his numbers from the games he's actually started this year. In standard scoring, he's had 19, 18, and 25 in his 3 starts that he finished. He's going up against the Washington defense that's 30th in the league against quarterbacks. So if you got a guy that's on a bye, or maybe Carson Palmer was your starting quarterback, Josh McCown looks like a pretty nice start this week.
All right, I hear you on that one. It's going to be an interesting matchup as well. So we'll see what happens. And seeing that KJ would like to sit the Philly defense, you seem to be starting the Packers defense, going up against Sanchez, who kind of went Sanchez on everybody. What's going on with that one?
Well, if you look at my lower third here, it says no Sanchez. I'm not a complete believer yet in Sanchez. I think that this is the first game he's ever had in his 64 starts where he threw 2 touchdowns and didn't have a turnover. I don't think that he's just all of a sudden going to be turnover free. I think the Packers are going to be up big, and he's going to be forcing the ball a lot, and I think they'll get a couple turnovers out of Sanchez.
All right, so KJ, looking at Kyle's list, he's got some interesting starts and sits, I'd like to say. So, is there anybody on his list that stands out to you that you probably agree or disagree with?
So there's 2 guys on Kyle's list, or 2 choices on Kyle's list that I disagree with. One of them being Colin Kaepernick as a sit. I think against the Giants, Colin Kaepernick is going to have a good day. If you just saw the game with Russell Wilson, he ran for a ton of yardage because they were worried about Marshawn Lynch. In this game, they're going to have to worry about Frank Gore, so I think that's going to allow Colin Kaepernick to rack up some running yardage. I think the secondary of the Giants is also decimated with Amukamara out for the season, and Colin Kaepernick's got a lot of weapons to throw to this game. I think he's going to have his choice of who he wants to get the ball to, so I am starting Colin Kaepernick this week against the Giants. The second one is Green Bay Packers starting against the Eagles. Call me a homer, but it's a high-powered offense regardless. I'm not starting the Green Bay Packers defense. I started them last week, and it worked out well. This week, not so much. If any kind of points go on the board, it works against the Green Bay Packers, so that counts special teams. That counts potentially defense. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. Neither one of these defenses are ones that I want to go anywhere near this week.
I will see who can throw the farthest. So, Kyle, anybody you agree or disagree with?
Yes, I disagree with Julian Edelman, not because I don't think he's going to have an okay game. It's just I think Brandon LaFell is the man there now. He has 4 touchdowns in his last 4 games, and I think that he's more the red zone target now than Julian Edelman. It's either Gronkowski or LaFell. Edelman's kind of down on the ladder now in the red zone looks. He's definitely still going to get your 7 catches or so, but if you're looking for a touchdown, I think LaFell is the guy to go this week.
I hear you on that one. LaFell has definitely been creeping up the target list. So, as always, like we do every segment, I'm not going to change it for you guys. For the people, Chris Gordon, what do they got to say this week?
All right, for the people. So we have 3 questions now in regards to start or sit. So the first one is at the running backs, Terrence West versus Houston or Jerick McKinnon at Chicago.
All right, let's hand this off. No pun intended to KJ. Which one you picking?
So I'm going to go with Jerick McKinnon because he is not part of a three-headed monster at the running back position. Although Houston is susceptible to giving up yardage and touchdowns on the ground, you don't know where the production is going to come from with Tate, Crowell, and West in a timeshare. So I'm going to go with Jerick McKinnon as part of a 1-2 punch and probably going to be the guy who's catching on third downs. So I think McKinnon's got more opportunities to rack up yardage through the air and on the ground. Might get some touchdowns pushed from Asiata, but I still think McKinnon's going to be the better start this week.
All right. Any words on that, Kyle?
I agree. It's just as simple as McKinnon's the starter. He's going to get the more guaranteed touches. You got to go that way.
Makes sense. You don't know who in that committee is going to score. So that's a long shot. Back to the man of the people.
All right, and the next question is bench a wide receiver. So you need to pick one that this person can actually put onto his bench. And the list is Mike Evans at Washington, Jordan Matthews at Green Bay, Mike Wallace versus Buffalo, or Brandon Cooks versus Cincinnati. And again, you have to bench one.
All right. Let's send this one to Kyle. Which one you picking?
I love all those guys, but if I had to choose one, I would say it would be Jordan Matthews to bench, just because there's so many weapons with the Eagles. You don't know which way the ball's going to go. I know Mark Sanchez looks like he's definitely in sync with Jordan Matthews, but there's Jeremy Maclin there. There is now Brent Selleck because, as we all know, I hate Zach Ertz now. He's the worst tight end ever. But I would still say that there's too many options there. I would bench Jordan Matthews.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure Green Bay was watching that game, and they're going to spy on him a lot. KJ, which one you picking?
I'm benching Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks has been a roller coaster kind of guy this year, and if you look at the last 4 games, he's had a good game, he's had a bad game, he's had a good game, bad game, or the other way around actually. He had a big game last week, so I think he's in for a stinker this week against Cincinnati because I think they have too many weapons versus Jordan Matthews having too many weapons against him. Brandon Cook's gonna have a bad week. Sorry, Brandon.
All right, back to the man of the people, Chris.
It looked like Kyle really didn't agree with KJ's answer, by the way. I've never seen so much head shaking. All right, so the last question for now from the people is a defense. So would you play the Lions defense at Arizona or the Patriots defense at Indianapolis? Yeah, I know.
All right, I think Kyle likes this question. Which one you taking?
This one's pretty simple for me. You got the Detroit Lions going against a backed-up quarterback. I know he's looked good, but when you're going against the Indianapolis Colts and Andrew Luck, you don't start that defense. So bench the Patriots defense, start the Lions. It's an easy call.
Absolutely agree. So, moving on. It's our new segment. We're going to go ahead and go into the buy low, sell high. We like to say plan B for plan B. A couple trades. So, looking at this list we have here, we have the top traded players going on in the league. So, KJ and Kyle, I just lost Carson Palmer. He's gone for the season, unfortunately. So, who in this list that you're seeing here would you buy low now on? Kyle, who are you picking?
I'm definitely buying low on Russell Wilson right now. I think it's just because that he hasn't really had a great game recently in the passing game, but he's had a ton of rushing yards. So maybe the guy that has Russell Wilson is just using him as a backup. But if you're in a league where you only get like 4 points for passing touchdowns but 6 points for rushing touchdowns, I would definitely go try to pick up Russell Wilson. And I was able to trade Julian Edelman for Russell Wilson, so somewhere along those kind of lines, that's something you got to offer up if you need Russell Wilson.
Food for thought. KJ, which one you taking? Russell or Philly?
I am taking Mr. Rivers because I think at this point, Arizona hasn't been able to unload him yet. I think they're going to be willing to part with him for a little bit less than they would have maybe 2 weeks ago. I think Phil Rivers is definitely going to throw the ball a lot more than you can expect Wilson to. He's got better weapons, and I think throughout the rest of the year, Rivers is going to be a more consistent quarterback with double-digit production versus Russell Wilson, who's just not getting it done. Hurts me to say that.
That hurts me to hear it, unfortunately, but I may agree. So, moving on. Looking at last week's production, past few weeks actually, one hot name for wide receivers this coming week, Odell Beckham. He's been scoring by the gallons. Question: if I own Odell Beckham, is it time to sell? KJ, what would you do?
If I have Odell Beckham, I'm kind of starting week to week. He's been an absolute stud. I don't know why you would try to unload him unless you've got a glaring need, maybe a running back or something like that you just absolutely have to have, because we're going into the playoffs. You don't have a lot of room for error now. If you're like me, you're close to 5-5 in a lot of leagues because of people that have just gone down. You haven't been able to find replacements. Odell Beckham's one of those guys that you found on the waiver wire, and he's treated you well so far. So I say you got to keep him. Hold on to that guy.
I hear on that one, even though it's a little bit of a rocky ship over there in New York. Who knows what's going to happen? Kyle, you're going to sell him, or are you holding on?
Unfortunately, I agree with KJ on this one. Basically, in New York, it's Odell Beckham or bust in the passing game. So you're going to see, I would say, at least 10 targets a game go his way. He's the red zone target as well, along with Larry Donnell. So if you have him, there's no reason why you should be getting rid of Odell Beckham. Keep him.
Yeah, I probably agree with you on that one. So looking at our list again, there's a lot of interesting names here that are the most traded players around the league in fantasy all over. So any players on this list you put on your trade exemption list? I'm thinking about Dez. I don't know. Carl, anybody on here you would hold on to?
Well, here's a player that I wouldn't be trading only because I'll be dropping him. It's Vernon Davis. You're not going to get anything for this guy at this point. The only place that he belongs is on the waiver wire because he's just not a top tight end anymore. He's an afterthought. They have 4 wide receivers that have all been former number 1 wide receivers, former 1,000-yard receivers. And it's just, I don't know if it's an injury or Kaepernick doesn't trust him anymore, but I would definitely just drop Vernon Davis at this point.
Yeah, I hear on that one. His production has been kind of sinking with Stevie and everything, so who knows what's going to happen with that guy. So, KJ, anybody on this list you'd put on your trade exemption list?
I'd probably say Justin Forsett, actually. Justin Forsett has been, I don't want to say an anomaly his first couple of years, but I remember him back in Seattle, spent a couple of years in Houston, and he just never really got to tote the rock because he was always behind somebody. And because of the whole Ray Rice situation, he's got pushed into the starting role, and he's produced as a top 10 running back this year, which is a shocker. Nobody saw that coming into the season. So I am not looking to get rid of Justin Forsett. The Ravens are a team that is going to pass the ball to the running backs, and they're going to commit to the run. So he's a great red zone guy. I'm holding on to Forsett as much as I can.
Makes sense. He's been pretty much the significant running back in that situation that's been kind of rocky since Ray Rice. But that's here nor there. So, moving on to the next question. Looking at this list of the hottest traded players around the fantasy football world lately, is there anybody not on this list that you would probably buy low or sell high on this week? KJ.
All right, Rose, so this one's for you as a Texans fan. I think a good buy low candidate is DeAndre Hopkins. I was taking a look at the rest of his schedule, and he's got Tennessee, Jacksonville, Indy, a bunch of secondaries that don't really strike fear in any receivers in the league. So I think DeAndre Hopkins, heading into the playoffs now, can be a sneaky guy to plug in as a wide receiver 3 with a new quarterback in Ryan Mallett. Ryan Mallett does one thing well. He throws the ball downfield. DeAndre Hopkins is a burner. He's a big dude. He can go up and get it. I think it's a risk you take, obviously, but it's not a huge risk that you have to offer up a lot to get him. So I think DeAndre Hopkins could pay dividends coming up in the next couple weeks.
Absolutely, and a lot of Andre Johnson lovers are going to be upset that he's been taking away a couple targets. Yeah, it makes sense. So, Kyle, is there anybody not on this list that you would probably buy low or sell high on this week?
Yeah, this is probably the last week that you can as well, but with Andy Dalton looking so awful, I would sell high on A.J. Green right now because you just don't know what the QB situation is going to be like in Cincinnati. And with no decent backup, I don't think that A.J. Green's going to be able to have a good year with Andy Dalton playing the way that he is. So if you can, sell high.
That makes a lot of sense. He's been in and out of the lineup. Never know what's going to happen with Andy. Makes sense. So, this segment everybody's watched this entire video for. Our Plan Cs, our sleepers of the week. We're going to do this a little differently now. So, KJ and Kyle have actually taken the pleasure of enrolling their sleepers into a DraftKings lineup. And they're going to go head-to-head each week. And we're going to see who's actually going to be the victor. So, looking ahead to Week 11, let's take a look at what their lineup looks like this week. A lot of interesting starts there. Kyle's going with Sean Hill. We'll see what happens with that new situation. So, Kyle, which two players in your lineup really stick out to you as your favorites?
I'm going to start with Monte Ball. I know it's a far cry from what he was when you probably drafted him in the second round this year, but coming off the injury, no one's really talking about him. He participated in full in practice today, so I think that he's going to get the goal line carries, and if you watch the Broncos, when they get up big, they don't really let Peyton throw anymore. When they get in the red zone, they just hand it off, and I think that that'll give Monte Ball 1 or 2 scores this week. And then when we move on to the tight end position, we got another guy coming back from injury, Kyle Rudolph, a.k.a. Rudolph the Red Zone Reindeer. He is a red zone monster. He's going to get a ton of targets because they really don't have any other red zone threat. So it's touchdown or bust for Kyle Rudolph, but we're sleepers right now, so I'm going to go with Kyle Rudolph as well.
All right, I can see you on that one. Yeah, let's take a look at that list again. KJ does have some interesting sleepers here as well for his week. Yeah, C.J. Anderson up there. So, KJ, which two players actually stick out to you as your favorite sleepers of Week 11?
So one of my sleepers this week is the sleeper QB in Josh McCown. I didn't really expect him to have a decent game last week, but he did. He threw 2 picks, but he also threw 2 touchdowns, and he was the leading rusher for his team, oddly enough. He's going against a team in Washington that the secondary just isn't that good. He's got big targets in VJax and Mike Evans, so I definitely like his matchup this week. If you just lost Carson Palmer and you have nobody on your waiver wire to go for, I'm sure Josh McCown is available. So plug him into your lineup, hope for the best. I think he's going to reward you. So my sleeper tight end this week is going to be Jared Cook against the Denver Broncos. He's the tight end for the Rams, and yes, the Rams don't have a high-powered offense, but Denver, because of their high-powered offense, is susceptible to giving up a lot of passing yardage and maybe some garbage time touchdowns. So Jared Cook is a shot in the dark as a sleeper tight end this week, but I think he's got a good matchup. I think he's going to get a lot of dink and dunk passes thrown to him by Sean Hill.
All right, we'll see what happens with that. And they're going to be at home, so we'll see what happens with the Rams. So, all right, so KJ, looking at Kyle's list of sleepers, is there anybody on this list that you would pretty much say, nope?
So nopes. I would go with the Kyle Rudolph pick because he's coming back from injury. I don't know how much he's going to be involved in the offense. Yes, it's a juicy matchup with Chicago because their defense is terrible, but I don't trust him yet. I need to see a game from Kyle Rudolph first. So I pick him up definitely off waivers because he's available in a bunch of leagues, stashing him just to see what happens, but I have no faith in starting Kyle Rudolph this week.
All right. Kyle looks like he's ready to come out swinging. What are you saying? Nope.
Well, I'm not saying nope to Jared Cook, just simply that this segment is called Plan C. I'm pretty sure you don't have an A and a B above Jared Cook. That's why I'm going with Kyle Rudolph, because he is that C guy that you could use that'll possibly put up bigger numbers than Jared Cook because he gets those red zone targets. So I like Jared Cook, but a deep sleeper, I don't know about that.
All right, I hear you on that one. We'll see what happens with this week. It's going to be an interesting week, to say the least. So, that's what we call our sleepers of the week. So, moving on, as we like to do, we'd like to pay homage to our audience, meaning the world to us. So, our man in the field, Chris Gordon, what do you guys say for the people?
All right, for the people, part 2. First question is, Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, we're going to ask if we should sit Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers versus Philadelphia, or Colin Kaepernick at New York. Now, this is a question. I'm going to put a little disclaimer. It's from an Eagles fan to an Eagles fan. So, KJ, I know you're waiting for this. Go on ahead.
Take it.
All right, so my homegirl Marjorie posted this question. She's an Eagles fan, so naturally she's torn. She wants to start Aaron Rodgers because he's a stud, but she also doesn't want to see Aaron Rodgers pick apart the Eagles defense. So, Marjorie, this is for you. Start Aaron Rodgers. It's called hedging your bet. So, if Aaron Rodgers has a terrible day, it probably means Philadelphia is going to win, so that makes you happy. If Aaron Rodgers picks apart Philadelphia, your fantasy team wins. So, again, you're happy. So, I think you start Aaron Rodgers over Colin Kaepernick. Even though I think Kaepernick is a good start, Aaron Rodgers should definitely have the bigger day. I know it's painful, but just do it. Pull the trigger.
Hashtag Kerry Williams. So, back to Chris.
Hold on, Kyle's raising his hand. Do you want to add to that?
Oh,
Kyle?
I would love to add to that. I would just want to say that to whoever posted that question, you got to play fantasy football with your head and not with your heart. If you play with your heart, you're going to be in last place. So just go with Aaron Rodgers.
it's all about the guts and the brains. Chris?
All right, the next question is, Reggie Bush, what to do with you? Simply asked, so go ahead and answer it.
All right, let's hand this off to Kyle.
I wish I could really give you a really confident answer on this. I don't really know what to do with Reggie Bush. I just think that he's always got that high ceiling because in a PPR league, he can be a beast. He has looked well running between the tackles before in the past. It's just whether or not he stays healthy, whether or not he's going to get the carries, and it's just basically a hit or miss. It might hit this week, it might not. So if you're desperate enough, start him. If you're in a PPR league, I would start him, and that's really all I can tell you.
Yeah, let's see.
So for me, Reggie Bush is nothing but a low-end flex option, maybe. Again, like Kyle said, in a PPR league format because he's going to get catches. I think the Lions' backfield at the beginning of the season looked great because of what they did last year, but they just haven't delivered. And I think the last couple of games this season are going to be tough matchups. You got to hold on to him. Nobody's going to want him, so you can't trade him. Yeah, so plug him in as a flex, hope for the best, or bench him if you've got a better option. But yeah, Reggie Bush it's a headache for everybody.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Megatron is back, so maybe that opens up the running game a little more for him. Chris?
All right, so the next is Storm Johnson. Yes, Storm Johnson from the Jaguars at StormJohnson8 followed me on Twitter. Not sure why, but it's awesome. So everyone should do the right thing and go follow him too. Hopefully, he'll be watching this video and he'll like the Ultimate Plan B and maybe be on the show. You never know, right? So the question from me to me is, how awesome is Storm Johnson? And the answer is simple, people. He's awesome. Any other people want to add to that?
Kyle has his hand on his face.
I'm going to say that I'm pretty sure that Twitter account or Facebook account, whatever it is probably not verified and maybe a fake.
It is verified. Hold on.
Make sure that it's got that little check in the corner.
It does. Hold on. Time out, people. Let me load this up quick. Prove a point. Anybody else want to say something about Storm Johnson while I load this up?
KJ?
The dude's name is Storm. That's awesome. You got to be pretty ballsy to go by the name Storm. He played great football in UCF. I thought he was a steal in the draft for the Jaguars. So, yeah, thank you, Storm Johnson, for following my boy Chris.
Kyle, you see that check, Kyle? See that check?
I'm going to say, just like he is for the Jaguars, maybe his Facebook account is inactive.
Oh, Storm, don't listen to him. He's just jealous.
All right, back to the other people.
Okay, now, next question. As you know, I recently got into college. This college is Blue Mountain State. Blue Mountain State has one of the greatest football teams ever with my man, Thad Castle. So, if Thad Castle was playing in the NFL right now, if he got drafted instead of doing all that cocaine, what NFL team would be lucky to have him?
So, Bro Beans, being that the Eagles just lost DeMeco Ryans for the year with a torn ACL, I think we would be ecstatic if we could draft Mr. Thad Castle to be a Philadelphia Eagle. I'm pretty sure Chip Kelly wouldn't mind mixing in some of those mojitos into the milkshakes that he has everybody take. So, yeah, Thad Castle, please. Can we draft him to the Eagles? That'd be phenomenal.
Okay, Kyle.
The only team I can see Thad Castle playing for is maybe the Chicago Bears. They are so awful on defense. Maybe you can also yell at Jay Cutler, beat the crap out of him, and make him start playing a little bit better. But besides that, no thank you.
All right, back to the man of people. Chris, go ahead.
So everyone should like Blue Mountain State, support the movie, watch the show if you haven't. It's just amazing. And again, everyone please follow us on Twitter at Ultimate Plan B. Use the hashtag KBKUPB to ask all your questions. We'll have them answered. Also like us on Facebook at The Ultimate Plan B. Thanks again for all the questions, and we look forward to hearing from you for next time.